Hello and welcome to the stage of greatness. I am Danielle Francine, your host, and we have Miss Kristen Elwine back with us today. Yay! So excited. And so, Kristen and I were talking right before we started the show, and we're curious, food for thought for you. If you were to be a kitchen utensil, what utensil would you be and why? I had no idea. I'm like a spatula. Why? Because I flip shit over. I help things cook thoroughly through. In case you don't have a lid for your pan for your over easy egg.
Random questions,
Right?
things to think about when
Seriously.
you can't go to sleep.
I was just gonna say, like, do you think about those things when you go to sleep? If I were to be a utensil,
No, I don't think and when I got asked that question, I was like, really? Of all the crazy questions, it was not one I was prepared to answer.
next, please. Next,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so today we're not talking about kitchen utensils, thankfully.
Oh
we,
no.
we are going to have a conversation about careers, following your inner guidance, passion, and all things surrounding that. So, Kristen was you were in a very high level,
Mm-hmm.
powerful position, right? I
Yes.
remember when I first spoke with you and I was like, oh, you're a what? Whoa. That's
Chief financial officer.
chief financial
Yes.
officer.
To
Yes.
the C-suite I went, and the corner office to go with it.
Mhm.
So first off, Danielle, it is great being back. But yeah, so you kind of it's like one of those things. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? Now, the funny thing is when I was in high school, I did not want to be an accountant. Went to school for engineering and then started co-oping, and accounting seemed like I could get a job. I could always make money, right? So it was the right thing to do. And oh, by the way, let's not forget, I was good at math. So therefore, as I grew up in the 70s and 80s, right, it was very much, you're good at this, let's take this path, right? What can you do with that? What also, right, in the back of my head going, what can you make money doing? Right. This job, oh, besides there not being a ton of options for women at the time, but at the same time, take this path, right? This, you'll get a good job. You'll make money. You'll do this. This works, right? My family, extended family all had, very prestigious, right? My older cousin, prestigious, right? So it was like, okay, so I'm gonna switch. And I actually thought about doing psychology, but then it was the social workers don't make any money. And then it was, when I was in business, I didn't pick my major until senior year, because I wasn't really sure I wanted to do accounting. And then it ended up being what my co-ops were in, but I was like, marketing, but people don't make money in marketing, right? And I kept hearing the same thing over and over, and it had to be this. So there was a whole lot of conditioning. And then I started in accounting, and I actually, when I was in industry, right, because industry versus school is like night and day, I really liked it. I was excited about it. I was excited about what I was learning, the implementing systems, things that really weren't accounting based, but just fell in that, and put my whole identity around, right? As I was going through my career, it was, okay, so I'm in public accounting, I'm going to be a partner. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a partner. Now I'm going to be a CFO. And so there was a lot of direction, and there was a lot of belief that this was just my path.
Mm-hmm.
And was very proud when people, when I reached that and said, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm chief financial officer. And
Yeah.
it's but it's interesting. I was very proud.
Mhm.
But when I met my now husband and he said, what do you do? I said I was an accountant.
Oh, you didn't use your
And
title.
I didn't use my title
What?
because when you were dating, that title as a woman could be very intimidating to the
Mm,
people that you're dating. So therefore, I was just
powerful
I
woman.
shouldn't say just an accountant, right? There's a lot of accountants that you're not just anything.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's also levels, right? You
right.
were at the top level.
I
So
was
you
at the top
kind of
level.
like brought yourself down a little bit to be
Hmm.
more, okay,
Right.
here I am.
Yes.
Hmm, okay.
Yes. So here we are. And it was kind of interesting. Did that, got married, changed, was changing jobs, great salary, all the stuff. And I was running against some issues with the company, right?
How long ago was this?
um, 3, 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, our 4th year wedding anniversary is next week. So it'll be 4 years
4 years.
that this was. This was
Okay.
kind of the start, and it'll go fast. Don't worry.
I'm like ready to pull nuggets. You know me.
So we do this, right? Newly married. I get a brand new job that is supposed to be amazing and all the stuff. And I was running into a problem. Love the job, love the people, but there was a lot of integrity issues. And it's something that I hadn't realized, but had been coming up, right? And when you're in that position, and I have a really high regard for integrity, I started like going, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, I actually had my prayers answered and I was no longer at that job. But it wasn't, even though my prayers were answered, it was due to a few things. And all of a sudden, I felt that 50, I had pretty much gotten stripped from my title, my identity, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. So at this point,
So wait, what do you mean stripped from your title and stripped from your identity? What specifically happened?
so I was on vacation, came back from vacation, and I did not have a job anymore.
Oh damn.
Um, I had been there a relatively short period of time. So in the world of you should be here, right? What that was going, right? All the things through my head. I didn't at the time have an advanced degree. I had a whole lot of experience. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do?
Mhm.
Right. This my entire world now, even though I didn't admit to my, husband what my title was, it was to my core
Yeah.
who I was.
Hmm.
Went through this entire spiritual awakening at this time. It was so much of a jolt shift. It was like in my face. The world is different than I thought the world was. A lot of more things made a lot more sense. Started down a path of listening to Abraham Hicks, being very awake, and now trying to figure out that identity and with a whole different world. And what did I want to do? And where did I want to go? But really attached to that identity and faced with the choices that I could change it, not even knowing how because of all the conditioning.
Hmm.
So the next couple of years, due to the ability of understanding the universe and how the universe works, I got multiple jobs, right? That belief that I at once had that if you were 50 and you didn't have this and you didn't have this, you were never going to have a job or you were going to have to take it at a lower pay. All of that I was able to create exactly what I wanted. And I was very much holding on to that. And I created the last position I had was what I thought was my dream. It had the corner office. It had this. It had everything I wanted, an amazing salary bonus structure. And I all of a sudden walked in every day and I hated it.
Hmm.
And there was no more passion. And I was not excited about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want the system. There was nothing about it that I all of a sudden was liking. And I was like, all right, we need to change it. So from there is when I ultimately went out and started Alignment CFO. Now, this is my second company. So this isn't the first time that I had a company, but my last company was very much accounting and consulting based.
Mm.
And I wanted this different. And I wanted this to involve universal laws. And I wanted to involve energetics. And I wanted it to be completely different. So I was like, all right. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to jump and hey, I'm going to do this. And this isn't going to be a problem. But there was that piece of me that was still that CFO that was like, you're a CFO. You walk in the room and say, I'm a CFO.
Yeah.
Now I walk in a room and I say, I'm a coach and my business is, and I'm a CEO. And it wasn't holding the same title. It wasn't, that feeling was not the same.
That's what I was going to ask you. That feeling. So the feeling that you're talking about, like what is the difference in the feeling of you walking in a room saying, I'm a CFO to I'm a coach in my business, I'm a CEO? Because I feel like I also can, yeah, I know what you're going to say, but please.
I was extremely confident. I walked in the room, I shook hands, pre-COVID, I did this. This is who I am. This is my position. There was, as much as I earned the respect through leadership, there was also that this is who you are, right? I sit on a couple of board of directors. This is me.
Yeah.
And now I'm introducing myself in a world with a lot of coaches that all of a sudden I feel like I just graduated and I'm 20 years old again.
Mm.
And I'm starting all over again.
Yeah.
And I don't walk into the room the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't show up the same way.
Right.
Now it's this learning. And it was I had contract work, and I had great referrals, which was fantastic, but it was also like that in between the worlds of who you were, strict accounting, to I really want to do coaching and I really want to help entrepreneurs and I really want them to succeed at business. And I'm not even sure how I'm succeeding in business at this point. And I really had to kind of strip that identity and go, but wait a second, you're the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of those CFO traits, you're the CEO.
Right.
You get to have all of those same traits.
Right.
And it really is kind of how my program became from it, because I really started looking around at the industry and I started looking at the transformation that I went through going from this really like top position to all of a sudden thinking that I was starting from zero, below zero.
Yeah. So question for you real quick. I don't want to cut you off, but I
No.
want to ask you this. So the CFO to CEO, do you think that because somebody else gave you the title of CFO and it was a recognized title, it was a recognized company, a recognized position, right, holds such a different like essence for you, for me, for many people, versus I'm the CEO of my business. Well, what's your business? Right. This. Oh, I never heard of it.
Correct. Yeah. And even though I ran a successful business for 10 years, I still had that same, it was a consulting. right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not, I am not the CEO of General Electric. I'm the CEO of my own business. I, you know, people who get laid off that can't get jobs become consultants of their own business.
So that's wait, and so I want to talk about this for a little bit too. So that's pretty much what you shifted to, like, oh, I'm going to launch my business. I want to help other people. And now when I say this, I feel that people are gonna think like I got laid off. So this is basically just what I had to do. This is what I'm left with.
Mm-hmm. Versus
Right?
the fact that I left a very nice job, right? So, like, fast forward from when I had my world shaken and 2 additional jobs.
Mhm.
Like I said, dream job. I was fully employed that I left.
Yeah.
But in my head, right, the stories we tell ourselves were, you know, I was doing this because I had no other alternatives, which was exactly the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah. Well, that's
You know.
like when I had my CrossFit in New Jersey before I sold it, right? And I mean, we were the first CrossFit in the area, CrossFit Lithium.
Mhm.
Everybody knew CrossFit Lithium. Everybody. CrossFit Lithium. So when I sold it and I wanted to sell it, I couldn't wait to sell it. And as soon as I walked away, I was like, oh my God, who am I?
Mhm.
Right? Because it was like, oh, Danielle Green, she owns CrossFit Lithium. And I'm like, what now? Right? I would go into places who are well, I used to own a CrossFit gym and now I want to coach at yours, right? And they were like, oh, she can't get work, so she's coming here. Like, no, I wanted to sell it. I wanted to do this. And now, so I'm struggling with myself. And it sounds
Mhm.
like a very similar story. And when you speak to people about that, like, and you have that belief, whether they hear it in your voice or not, like that's sensed energetically, right? Like, okay,
Mhm.
this girl's saying this, and we're like, what? Yeah. So how did you shift that for yourself?
You know, multiple different ways, right? And it's a continuous, who do I want to be? What
Mhm.
do I, I left that position because I did not want to do that for the next 15 years.
Mhm.
I made that choice. Let's just say I've got 15 years left to work, right? I wanted a certain lifestyle. I wanted to shift who I was helping and who I was supporting.
Mhm.
Um, I now see the benefits of it, but we almost did like a ceremony to kind of do a departing of the old,
Yeah.
right? Of that old Kristen does not exist. But here, all of those things, right? And it's one of the things that I had to start realizing is all the things that made me extremely successful to get to that level makes me extremely successful in my business,
Yes.
right? That I have that experience that I didn't have when I was 20, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of experience that I have that I help my clients with that they don't have. They've got great ideas, great, I can do this, but the basics and the business and the foundations and the money and the cash flow and how do you manage it all? I could pull the pieces that I loved of being a CFO, add it to my coaching, and go, you know what? This is just an absolute amazing company that is going to just keep growing.
Yes.
And instead of looking at what potentially revenue is right now, let's look about where you want revenue to go,
Mhm.
right? Look at the multi-million dollar company that you're building
Mhm.
and knowing that you're building a multi-million dollar company
Yeah.
and really stepping into, well, how do you build a multi-million dollar company?
Mhm.
And it's not that playing small, It's not that, oh, I just decided to, none of this was, I just decided it. This was, right? And if anything, given from a health standpoint and everything else, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
Right. I was getting sick all the time in my corporate. I
Mhm.
had 3 surgeries in 1 year.
Oh my God.
If I get the sniffles, I'm going, why do I have the sniffles? It's not the same.
Yeah.
I love and wake up. Monday mornings, I'm thrilled to wake up Mondays.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's funny when you brought up the, I can take these pieces and these pieces and add them to my business and have this amazing practice, right? That's going to keep growing and growing. I feel like that's such a common theme with so many people, maybe women more so, that we feel like we need to have one thing. Like there's one thing. What is your title? Right? I had this
Mhm.
conversation with a girlfriend. She was saying the same thing. Well, my husband tells me you put all of your power and all of your identity in this title. Right? She's like, and so I feel like I can't do anything else. Like I can't incorporate this into my lifestyle. I can't share this with people. And really, it's like, who the fuck says that you have to be just one thing? Or like if you
Right.
create a business, it's got to be just marketing. It's got to be just coaching. It's got to
Mhm.
be, you know, whatever those things are. And you and I had this discussion before with human design,
Mhm.
right? So human design, that was one of my big first like, oh God, there's nothing wrong with me, right? Because I always had my core career or business, and then I always had all these other little things that I would do, and that's just me. That's how I'm
Mhm.
designed, right? And still, even with my business now, it's like, yes, it's nutrition, and it's also, energy work, breath work, all different processes, workout. Like there's just
Right.
all these different little things. And it sounds like same thing for you. Like you are seeing the bigger picture of what all of these people need and crafting your business and your offerings to allow others to thrive.
Correct.
You're
Right.
not staying in a little box.
Not staying in a box, doing it my way, which are taking the things that I excel at, that I love doing, and I get to share them with amazing business owners so that in some respects they get to stay in their zone of genius and I get to stay in my zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a perfect match for them, and sometimes I say, yeah, there's a piece of that obviously I played that same type of supporting role as a CFO. I did business strategy, but now instead of me doing a lot of it or managing, I'm really helping the CEO step into understanding the financials, understanding the business strategy, understanding the other pieces,
Mm-hmm.
so that adding to their zone of genius, they also know and have really strong foundations so they can grow and keep and then add teams and then continue their business. And I say to people all the time, because I break things down into 90 days, and I'm like, we can take our path, and I love our path, but we can go zigzagging along, or we can go a little bit straighter. And that little bit of straighter, right? Part of the reason that a lot of business owners get lost is they get lost in the zigzag.
Yeah.
And the zigzag becomes profitable. The
Mm-hmm.
zigzag becomes this endless nonprofit that they're working on and hobby. And
Like
therefore, if
rabbit
we
holes,
went
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we went a little straighter, we could actually have direction, have profit, have more sustaining businesses.
Yeah.
And you get to do what you love and you get to do your passion, and it works really well for
Yeah.
both, right?
Yeah.
But I love that about the identity, right? And sometimes that's why I'm not always like, wanting to lie I am the CEO of, right? Because I am multiple different things.
Mhm.
I am not just my company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like our identity, you put all your eggs in that basket when you were CFO, right? I put all
Mm-hmm.
my eggs in that basket when I was owner of CrossFit Lithium. I was speaking with another woman the other day, and she actually is in accounting also. And so she has been on this like last year. She's like, I started this crazy spiritual journey, and like I've been into now all of the things. I'm certified in Reiki, I'm certified in the Akashic Records, right? She's like, and I actually started offering those services and calling myself a healer.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, because I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an accountant. Like, yes, that's what I do for work by day. But really, I feel that the essence of me, like my soul, that's who I am, a healer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's now what I call myself, right? It's like, really, like, why can't we? This is a good question. Why can't we just call ourselves really whatever we feel that we are, right? What are you? I'm a goddess.
I am a
What?
powerhouse.
I'm a goddess. You're a powerhouse, right? I'm a motherfucking CFO goddess, right? Like, really, it's and and really, like with the title, you meet
Mm-hmm.
somebody, there's typically a judgment from your title.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we wrap so much into our identity. I always laugh when I go to the shore. I'm either John and Marianne's daughter or I'm Riley's mom. I do not have a name, right?
Oh,
Riley, my child has grown up, at the shore spending summers. So people know who she is.
yeah.
I I, as a single mom when she was growing up, kind of dropped her off, visited, but for the most part, they didn't see me. And my parents live in a small town, small beach town in New Jersey. So therefore, everybody knows their name, right? And they're very involved. So they know them. And because she was always around, they know her. And I'm like, yeah, hi. Hi.
Do you
And
remember my
I'm like,
name?
if I say my name, they go, who? Even, now I've changed my name to my, husband's name. But at the time, I always used a hyphenate my name. So I still had my parents' same last name.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Kristen Fee. And I'm like, John and Marianne's. Oh, you're John and Marianne. You're right. Oh, you're Riley's. Yeah, hi.
It's like, oh, you're a mom or you're a daughter. You are not you, your own being.
Right. And I didn't even have a name at the time, and I was like, oh, this is just great. Right. But we build so much around, right. And there's so much around our identity.
Mhm.
Um, but why do we have to be locked into one thing?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I still get stuck in those thought loops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sharing on social media. It's like there's crazy cars that drive down my street sometimes. I used to solely do just nutrition and training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my Facebook lives were pretty much always about nutrition. And then I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to talk to these people about like spirituality
Right.
or like
Actually,
limiting
I
beliefs.
remember that. I remember
Yeah.
going as you were going through that. Well, how do I do that? Right. And
Yeah.
as a CFO, now I'm talking about the energetics of money to people. And they're like, and the universe
Yeah.
and laws and universal laws. And
Yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah. And I think, and I'm curious your thoughts too, the things that we present, right? So, like nutrition, fitness, like food and workouts, like those are tangible things,
Mm-hmm.
right? the areas that you help people in with their business, right? The things that they can see, that they can touch. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. And then when we introduce something that you can't see with your eyes, like, oh, well, money is just energy. What?
Which
Well,
goes against everything we've been taught.
yeah, well, it's like, well, you can't have the body that you really want because you have limiting beliefs that we need to get rid of. I what? What are the limiting beliefs? Like, I'm good. No, actually, no,
Mhm.
you're really not, or else you'd have everything that you wanted right now.
Right. Oh, and I love when I make that statement. And people are like, what?
Well,
And I'm
you're
like, do you
crazy.
have everything that you really desire? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then you still have limiting beliefs. And they're like, but I don't. I don't. You do.
And it's like, I mean, so you and I went through like, certifications in order to help people in these areas.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm certified here, and still having that. I don't know if it's not really a fear. I think it's more of like an uneasiness. Yeah, maybe a fear of judgment of when these things are presented to somebody, how they're going to receive it,
Hmm.
right?
Well, and even when I do with money, right? It's really similar. It took me a while to start talking about the energetics of money.
Mhm.
I have a lot of credibility saying I was a CFO
Mhm.
just from that when I want to talk about cash flow and money.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to be able to do lives and talk about the energetics of money
Mm.
because it's really interesting. If you look at what you're taught and how you're taught to potentially manage money, and most of us aren't taught it at all, which is why statistics of 70% of the United States is paycheck to paycheck and all of that stuff, right? We're never taught how to manage money. When you look at large business and they track their money and they track the ins and they concentrate on revenue and they set up their spending, they're really using an energetics of money
Mhm.
to
Mm.
grow. The companies that are normally struggling are the ones that are worried about the expenses, are worried about this, and are worried about that. But the ones that are thriving really are revenue generated, sales generated, growing generated type companies,
Right.
which is all the energetics of money.
Mm. Mhm.
But that's, if you take a straight course accounting approach, that's not what you're going to hear. And that's not even how it's going to be explained.
Right.
So now telling people, source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, that higher being and the energy and how money works from an energetic standpoint, and that we're all abundant. Mixing those two worlds, it's like it took a while for people to go, oh. But then what I've found, and I'm sure you've found this too, right? You find your people.
Mhm.
You find the people that are like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You know what? I could eat chocolate cake if I believed chocolate cake was really going to get me thin. I could actually eat that.
Well, that's not really how it works, but
Well, I actually, as crazy as this is, Abraham Hicks was today. I was listening to something, and it's not exactly how it works, but there's a good belief system, right? My husband, who is Mr. Pizza, that eats pizza 7 days a week, when we went to him eating more balanced meals, in his mind, he believed that the pizza was keeping him thin and the more balanced meals was what was causing him to gain weight. That
Yeah.
was his belief system,
Right.
right? So he had a whole different belief system than most of the world.
Yeah, you're right. Just put that together as a program, how to change your belief system so that pizza keeps you thin.
Mhm,
Slice a day, keeps the fat
mhm.
away.
Oh, no, he eats a whole pizza.
And
He eats
so
a
that
whole large pizza.
and so there's also, I forget who the teacher is. It's somebody that channels,
Mhm.
um, and the message basically was, if you have a plate full of this rotten food, that if you eat this food, like, you are going to be deathly ill.
Hmm.
If you look at that food and set your intention, like, this food is going to nourish my body is going to thrive, and like all of
Right.
this, right? Before you eat it, you're good.
Hmm.
So, I mean, really, it's the power of, the power of your mind, the power of your intention, the power of spirit. But
Yes.
yeah. And again, those are things that you can't physically see. So
Correct.
many people, have trouble grasping that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And back
Yeah.
to your point, the people that are your people show up,
Right. And
right?
then you start seeing more and more of your people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so, like, with you leaving your
Hmm.
position and starting your business, because I want to kind of give a little bit of direction to people that may be wanting the same thing,
Hmm.
right? We spoke a little bit about passion.
Right.
um Most people don't do what they're passionate about for work, and that is a huge desire of many.
Hmm.
So, if somebody is really wanting to leave what they do for a living, for a career, because they wake up and they're in a bad place because they
Hmm.
absolutely hate their job, right? And they have this passion, they don't know how do I make that transition, right? Is there something or a couple things that you would give to that person, like either to think about, or maybe an action step, or anything that comes to mind in that way?
You will never be disappointed if you follow your passion. What you do really need to do, like we were just talking about, is really look at your belief systems, because that is what's going to determine how successful you are with your passion. As I said, growing up, I kept hearing, this isn't going to make money, this isn't going to make money, this isn't going to make money. So if you have a really strong belief that your passion does not make money,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to make money.
Yeah.
So be really, really clear on what your beliefs are before you make that jump, because it'll just make that jump easier. If you've already started doing the inner work, if you've already started doing, okay, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, this is why I believe, when I came back out on my own, and my husband's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, you know, why are you so sure? And I'm like, because I already know this, this, and this. Now, granted, I already said I went through a transition that I wasn't expecting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have to be prepared for the unexpected. But when things aren't right, it is always going within, because everything's just a reflection out. So as soon as you can start realizing to go within first,
Mm-hmm.
to have fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, because if you start losing the fun of your passion,
Yep.
you're right back where you are, right?
Yep.
So it's that continuous having fun, and that almost blind faith that it's just going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, if you're not doing what you're passionate about for work, starting to do that in such a way so that it, does bring more passion to your life, whether it's on the weekends or at night.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is something that you want to turn into a career, I mean, there's so many different avenues to do that
Right.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Start showing up, right? Put
Money, right.
yourself out there to be
Mm-hmm.
seen.
The energetics of money, it's service, it's not what we think money is. You can make money doing anything.
You really
and you
can.
can make lots of money. And at the same time, you're attracting money. You're not making it.
Mhm,
So you can just attract money by the fact that you exist, right?
mhm.
You don't have, so whatever you're doing, you can attract money.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that I need a college degree, I need a master's degree, I need this, I need this.
Hmm.
It is literally, what are you putting out? How are you serving? What are you having fun with?
Right.
And you will be attracting the money.
Hmm. Well said. Well said.
You know?
Okay, so
So
now it's time for my random questions for you.
this is, well, at least I know you're not going to ask me what kitchen utensil to be.
Nope, I don't think that I'll ever ask that question again to anybody. So, what do you feel is your superpower?
There's a couple.
Just one.
Just one, just
One.
one. The ability to see the potential in an individual.
Mm, I like it. Yes,
It has always been.
that is definitely a good one. Okay, and what is your, this is the last one. What is your definition of a good life?
One that you literally wake up and smile and want to sing every day because it's just so good. And you just keep getting better and better. Huh?
Hallelujah. 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 Yes.
You know, we have so many stories of what we think life is supposed to be. And when you start realizing that it really can be that good and it can be that exciting and that wonderful, and you just lean into the fact that it's this wonderful and this amazing,
Mhm.
everything starts showing up differently
Yep.
and you just get more of it.
And you just smile more and more and more and more.
Mhm.
Yes. I love it. Love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining me again. Always a pleasure
Well,
talking to you.
we can do this multiple different times.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. Jackson's choking on something. So
Okay.
hold on one second. Okay, we're good. Podcasting from home, the animals choking, chewing on bones. Can you hear all of the things? Okay. Yes. So, your contact information was on the last podcast that we did. I will also put it on this one too. So, if
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, if you own a business and what Kristen was saying resonates with you and your company, and yes, reach out to her. She'd be more than happy to help you. She's a
Mhm.
gem. She's a diamond in the rough.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So yes, let's wrap it up. And that is it for today's stage of greatness. Thank you so much, my love, for joining me again. I'm sure it will happen sooner than later. All
Yes.
right,
Thank
everybody.
you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Until next time, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.